The New York Daily News, usually known for conservative tabloid garbage that appeals to the lowest common denominator, has finally put out a cover that has a lot of liberals super excited. In the cover, they take politicians, particularly GOP presidential candidates, to task for tweeting their thoughts and prayers to victims of mass shootings in the US while they do nothing to actually fix the problem of mass shootings in the United States. This, of course, has many Christians complaining about so-called prayer shaming, and I've even seen some particularly sensitive atheists saying that it's an example of closed-mindedness and that we should never make fun of or criticize a person for the way that they choose to grieve, even if that means praying to a God that we don't believe exists. They're right, but also in another way, they're very, very wrong. It's true that no one should be faulted for praying to their chosen God, unless they're praying for something really shitty like another Ted movie. We could argue about whether or not prayer subtly influences people to contribute less in the real world because they already feel like they've helped through prayer, but the science is still out on that, and if there is an effect, it's probably not a huge one. We could also talk about the one study showing that praying for someone with a medical condition actually makes the condition slightly worse. But again, it's not conclusive, and if there's an effect, it's a pretty small one. So really, all we can say is that prayer probably doesn't do much except for making the person praying feel better. Along with Christians complaining about prayer shaming, I've seen some atheists say that because prayer doesn't really do anything but make the person praying feel better, prayer shaming should be done. I think both of those groups are wildly missing the point here. The New York Daily News isn't shaming anyone for praying. They are shaming politicians for being giant hypocrites. These politicians may or may not be praying, but what they are doing is tweeting out the fact that they are praying for victims while they are actively encouraging the policies, making the policies and passing the policies that are leading to more mass murders in the US. That's hypocrite shaming. It would be like tweeting that you're praying for your aunt to recover from skin cancer while you're stuffing her into a tanning bed. Stop struggling, Agnes. This is going to give you a healthy glow. And to really make the analogy work, the tanning salon would have to be paying you to bring in your aunt. Because that's the real problem here. Organizations like the National Rifle Association have a huge, powerful, wealthy lobby, and they basically have the GOP on their payroll. And the NRA doesn't want gun control. Unfortunately, gun control seems to be the best way to stop mass shootings from happening. It's what Australia did in 1996. Just days following a horrible mass shooting, Australia enacted severe gun regulations, and it worked. Homicides by gun dropped 60%, with no increase in other types of homicide, and no increase in home invasions, for those of you worrying about needing guns to protect all your stuff. There's probably a lot more scientific evidence out there showing that gun control works, and also more evidence showing other ways we can stop gun violence. But if we want to know anything about them, we're going to have to convince Congress to lift the current ban on the CDC studying gun violence. That's right. About 20 years ago, Republicans passed severe restrictions on the study of gun violence because they didn't want to accidentally fund any gun control advocacy. Thanks, NRA. So please remember all that the next time you hear of some politician complaining about prayer shaming when citizens beg them to do something about the outrageous rash of gun violence in the United States. It's not prayer shaming, it's hypocrite shaming.